Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode. Today, I have Gary Wilson on the show. Gary is the founder of the Global Investor Agent Team. We're going to get into that today. Get this. So, at age 40, he's a retired corporate vice president, mergers and acquisitions in the national banking industry. He's completed over 100 transactions per year consistently without a sales team or an assistant with virtually no marketing costs. Very curious about the no marketing costs here. Traded over 3,000 investment properties in less than 5 years, and he's developed 5 real estate holding companies owning over 250 rental units. I'm excited because this guy has started multiple successful businesses that have reached multi-million dollar status, including like brokerages, rental management, investment services, settlement services, and appraisal services. We're going to jump in with Gary today and figure out how he is growing and managing all these incredible businesses. Gary, welcome to the show. It's exciting to have you on.
Hey, thank you, Brandon. I'm glad to be here, and I appreciate the opportunity to share and help some others along their journey too.
Yeah. Hey, a lot of people come up to me and they're like, how did you get to where you are? Where you are. You seem like you're kind of young. I'm 33. I like to think that we're doing some big things, but really all I do is I just put myself in rooms with guys who are way smarter than me, twice my age, that have already accomplished all the things that I want to accomplish. And I figure out ways to add value to those guys, right? Because they've already been down that pathway. And you've accomplished so much here. For those listening that don't know who you are, can you tell us your story?
Sure. Well, I'll go back to the not all the way to when I was born, which was pretty awesome story, by the way. I'll have to tell people that one day. But going to when I was 8 years old, well, my best friend Kevin McKinney, his dad was an architect, and they lived in this really super awesome contemporary house totally cantilevered right on the lake, and it was glass all the way around. It had a bridge walkway going to the house. I'm like, dude, this is what I want, man. Like, I don't care what I do. This is what I want. So I thought, okay, I'm going to be an architect. So I really got into drawing houses, just the front of the house. That was how I didn't realize there was such thing as a floor plan. Well, and I still do that today, by the way. But I went to visit my grandparents, which I did on a regular basis. My grandfather turns out was a professor. And years ago, this is like 100 years ago now, professors taught multiple subjects. They didn't just teach just math or just physics. He taught all that. And one of the things he taught was architecture. So he taught me how to use all the scales and the symbols and everything to do floor plans. And that year at Christmas, my mother brought me a drawing board, a T-square, the compass, the whole 9 yards. So I'm laying out floor plans. I mean, complete where I knew where the ductwork was and the pipes and everything at 8 years old. And I still have those plans today. So I knew I was going to be involved in real estate, right? I thought I was going to be a builder. And through my junior high years and high school years, I had my complete future planned out down to the penny, what car I was going to drive, all this kind of stuff. Of course, life throws you a curveball. So I went to apply to Virginia Tech for School of Architecture and got declined. And I think, holy crap, what do I do now? Well, they were kind enough to invite me down. They said, normally people don't apply directly to our School of Architecture. It's one of the top in the country. Got to have a 1200 on the SATs, and I probably had like 1199 or something. Who knows? But in any case, where I lived at the time was in the middle of the country. It was farm country. And about half the kids never finished high school. They went to work on the farm. But my high school counselor didn't know this. In any case, Virginia Tech said, you should have applied general studies. Go somewhere where general studies, come back and we'll let you in. But I didn't do that. I went to Old Dominion down in Tidewater, Virginia, right on the water. Man, it was just a beautiful place. And met my freshman year college roommate, Socrates. And this is where things get good. This is my own version of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Um, Turns out Sock's dad was a huge investor in Richmond, Virginia. He was a Greek immigrant, came over, partly spoke English, and I learned English, put himself through engineering school, worked at Fort Lee, and accumulated 150 units in and around Richmond. So when Sock and I graduated, we were like most kids with the first jobs, we were just going to go rent. And his dad said, no, you're not going to rent. You're going to buy a house and you're going to make money on the house. And I'm going to show you how to do it. So he helped us get that first property. And I'll tell you briefly, it was 1986, so interest rates were still north of 10%, probably 11 to 13% at that point. And we were just brand new. We just graduated like weeks earlier. We were December graduates. There was the bank on the planet is going to give us a loan. So we assumed the guy's first mortgage. And you can do this today. People say you can't assume mortgages. Like, yes, you can. You can assume VA, FHA, and USDA as long as you qualify. Everybody write that down. It's not like the old days where you didn't have to qualify. You do have to qualify today. Back then, we didn't have to. So we assumed the first mortgage, we refinanced his second, and we gave him a third note for the remaining equity. We had three notes on the property, three mortgages. We rented out the other two rooms. Those guys' mortgages, I mean, their rent paid our mortgages less about $50. So we're living like kings in Virginia Beach. We're buying boats and trucks and all this stuff and doing everything his dad told us not to do. Because he told us, don't go spend your money on a bunch of junk. He said, buy more properties. But we didn't listen. 10
Uh,
years later, I moved to Pittsburgh with my then wife and 35 years old, waking up in corporate America. And I'll just tell you, it was PNC Bank, working on mergers and acquisitions and making good money, getting promoted and hating every second of it. And I
mm,
remember his dad telling us at the closing table, actually, sorry, we went to one of his beach houses in Nags Head, North Carolina. On the deck, he's pounding his chest, saying, if you boys do what I tell you to do, you won't have to work for anybody else when you're 35 years old. Here I am, 35, fell in that trap, the corporate, go to college, get a job, blah, 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 blah. So I decided to invest. And in the first year I'd accumulated 30 units, and my net cash flow was matching my net take home pay from the bank. And I'm thinking, whoa, this is pretty cool. So being Mr. Conservative, I didn't retire right away. I took the next year, didn't buy a single property, paid down all my secondary debt that I used for down payments. So only was left with first mortgages, substantial equity, and increased cash flow because I also raised the rents. Anyways, went out and bought more properties. I retired when I was 40. And I got to tell you, this is such a funny thing, Brandon. We have had a major layoff the prior Christmas. And I was one of the guys that had to lay people off. And of course, I'm like, this is killing my soul. I'm not told my boss the next day. I said, look, I'm towing the company line because I'm a good guy about it, but I'm going to retire here this year and I don't want to work here anymore. And August 13th that year in 2003, I walked out. And here's the funny part. So I'm sweating like a pig because I got all my stuff on a dolly. My tie's loose. I'm soaking wet because it's hot out. It's August. I get to the street corner to cross over, and there's two guys in a suit and suits beside me. Oh man, we're so sorry. You probably got caught up on all those layoffs. Can we help you any? Can we help you get to our? I'm like, no, I didn't get laid off. I said, I just retired. It would have hit me when came words came out of my mouth. I was like, I bought my own freedom, man. I'm like, I did it. I could do anything I want, whenever I want, wherever I want. And of course, being an entrepreneur, I worked a lot harder. So, in any case, I want to take a quick break there. I'll get into the business building, but I know I just gave everybody a big head full there, but that's really from start to finish how I got through the interest from the interest level to actually being able to be financially free by accumulating investment real estate. I mean, I can go in all kinds of details, but I figure I'll let you chime in and everybody catch your breath.
yeah. So okay. So at that, were you financially independent at that point? Like, was that the big
Yeah.
transition?
Yeah, I wasn't financially free because I still had to put time into my property. So I was still
Yeah.
financially independent means I'm totally independent. I don't rely on anybody else for money. I can make my own money.
Right.
Financial freedom is you go from trading time for money to trading money for time. So I
Yeah.
got to the point later on in life where I was able to, like, for right now, I have no debt. I got zero debt. I'm totally financially free. It's just the most amazing thing. I love to travel, and I say this with all humility and humbleness, is I'm just a regular person. And for you listening here, I'm telling you, if you got that dream, if you got that vision, you don't wait another day. Take the steps necessary to pursue it. I'm telling you, you're there's no just do it. Okay. I mean, our motto on our team is right education plus right information plus right action equals right results. We lead with education. We lead with education. You can't do without it. Okay. Then you know how to use the information to take the right action and get the right results. That's anybody can do. I don't care if you got a first grade education or you're a doctorate. You can do this. And I'm telling you, I'm living proof. Okay. Have I had a lucky break or two? You're darn right I have. But I've also had a lot of fun breaking my back in two places. Going through ridiculous divorce that was very public because my wife and I both were on the radio and it's just a horrible thing. Um, embezzlement, I mean, you name it. I've had all those things happen, but the good things far, far outweigh all those bad things.
What was it specifically that you were investing in that eventually
Yeah.
allowed you to achieve
It was
financial freedom?
multifamily. I mean, vast majority of
Multifamily.
multi.
Okay.
I had, a beauty shop at one point and a garage and some stores and all that stuff. All good things. But at the end of the day, good old fashioned residential multifamily properties, that's one of the easiest ways to get started. And I did branch out later on, but that was my foundation. That
Uh,
was a foundation upon which I launched other businesses and built programs and things like that. But it was duplex, triplex, fourplex, duplex, triplex, fourplex,
okay.
till I had about 40 something units. And then I started getting to 5 units, then 9 units, 11 units. And finally, when I had about 70 something units, um, I bought a 90 unit building. And I could have retired right there. I'm like, I mean, if this thing alone is enough to pay the bills and give me some money to travel and stuff like that. But, when you're an entrepreneur, man, as soon as you open up that door to the 90 unit building, all of a sudden you're like, oh, now I want a 250 unit building. So we can't help ourselves. We are always moving forward. So, but what I did is I veered off and started building businesses. And I can talk about that too if you want. The building the business part, leveraging what you're doing, leveraging your foundation, guys. That's where the real wealth is. Owning properties. I'm not saying that I don't, but you know, it's owning properties is not the end game. It's simply the foundation upon which you can launch other businesses. And if you follow Robert Kiyosaki, you'll see it's the people that build businesses that actually go to the stratosphere,
Yeah. Yeah. That, I mean, I think something like 80-90% of millionaires come from real estate. And then, 100% of billionaires with a B come from private
Yep.
equity. I mean, that's definitely the way to do it. So I'm curious, in today's environment with what's happened with interest rates, do you feel like that if you were starting all over again, going on the same path, that you would have
Mhm.
still been able to achieve what you've done investing in those same type of assets, the quadplexes, the duplex, et cetera, building that up to,
Yeah.
90 units in the same interest rate environment? Because I think a lot of people have a block right now where they're like, oh, dude,
Yeah.
rentals don't pencil anymore because of interest rates.
Yeah. Right. Couple things. Yeah, excellent question, because this is so critical, especially right now. We've had several years of rapidly increased prices, followed by an increase in interest rates. Remember, every percentage point in mortgage interest rate equates to about 10% increase in mortgage payment, right? So the first answer is yes, you can do the same thing today. And in fact, their interest rates today are still lower by full 2 percentage points than they were when I started getting aggressive about investing, back when I was 35. I mean, I was paying 2% more, and I still did it. Now, bear in mind, there is an inverse relationship to property prices and interest rates. So as interest rates go up, property prices tend to not go up. They tend to either stay static or even sometimes even drop. So what's interesting, people say, well, then what do I buy? When do I buy when interest rates are high, so prices are static or going down? Or do I buy when interest rates are low because my payment will be lower, yet I know prices are going up? The answer is yes to both. I learned over years, I used to do the same thing. I would say, I'm going to wait for this, I'm going to wait for that, blah, blah, blah. Nonsense. Don't do it, guys. It's a myth. The people would say, I want to buy and wait. I always tell them, don't buy and wait, or excuse me, wait and buy and wait. Buy now and just give it time. I'm telling you, if I had held on to every property I ever owned, I'd be worth a lot more right now. But
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
sold them at strategic points. And a really good lesson here too, Brandon. I never regretted buying a property. I got a lot of headaches sometimes because I made mistakes already, or I bought a property and got surprised by things I didn't expect. However, I was always able to make money on it. Real estate's very forgiving. But I want to tell you this, I have regretted every single property I've ever sold. And I mean that with all sincerity. Looking back, if I'd have kept them, good Lord, I mean, who knows where I'd be right now. But I mean, I'm not upset about it. It's just it's a reality. It's a fact. In real estate, you buy and hold. Don't worry about interest rates and prices and all that stuff. And now there's another part to this, Brandon. It's exit strategy. See, back then, my exit strategy was do traditional rentals, rent to a young couple, a single person, whatever, and have a year-long lease, and they'd pay me every month for a year, and then it would renew. Today, you're right. A lot of properties won't cash flow using that methodology, that exit strategy.
Yeah.
So people can use short-term rentals. However, I will tell you, there's some pushback right now at the local level, municipal level. There's pushback on short-term rentals. right? I'm not saying I'm for it against it. I like short-term rentals. But in some neighborhoods, yeah, it doesn't really make sense. But everybody's making short-term rentals out of everything. Here's a really neat thing to do, and it's no longer a secret. I've been talking about it for about 2 or 3 years now, and everybody seems like they're doing it. Is midterm rentals. We used to call that corporate housing. So you rent to someone who's there greater than a month but less than a year. It was interesting. There's sort of a no man's land when it comes to real estate law and occupancy codes and all that. And that happens to be that no man's land. Most of the laws either for long-term rentals or short-term rentals. Short-term rentals, you're just kind of scooting under the radar screen. And the cool thing is they're traveling nurses, traveling business people, executives, high tech, oil and gas, sports and entertainment. So they're there for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. You're generally collecting more than twice the prevailing long-term rates, right? And yet you don't have all the turnover that you have with short-term rentals, right? You don't have as much pushback. Plus, these people are showing up by themselves. They're not coming with their kids and dogs. They're not throwing wild parties. They're there to work. They're usually flying home on the weekends. So midterm rentals guys right now, I'd ride that horse till the tongue is hanging out. That's what I would
What
do.
would you say? Midterm rentals? Is that what you said?
Midterm rentals, greater
Like
than a
corporate
month and
rentals?
less than a year. Yeah.
Okay, more
The
than a
old ter-
month, less than a year.
yeah, the old term was corporate rentals. And corporate rentals, though dodgy old, they would take an old hotel and convert it to efficiencies and call it corporate housing.
Yeah,
Executives don't want to stay in that crap. People today like me, I travel. I traveled for years, weekly. I got so tired of hotels, I could literally tell you how many steps it was to the bathroom, to the kitchen. I'm like,
yeah,
no, this is crap. So I would find nice Airbnbs down on a river or a lake or a mountain and live just like I was living at home with these beautiful views for less than the cost of staying in a hotel. So you guys think like a business person. Think if you were a traveler, what would you want? Right? And offer it to people. And it's midterm rentals.
What would you say? So right now, with the way that you said a big part of your strategy was buying and waiting, right? Just let
Hmm.
things wait out. A lot of these rental properties are on, 5-year balloons, right? I mean, that's the typical
Hmm.
rental loan that you see out there where you buy it and 5 years later you gotta, like refinance it. So your new loan has to be able to at least pay off the old loan that you have. I've got a buddy right now who is basically getting out of all his rentals. He started buying in 2011, 2012. Great time to buy. And he kind of
Hmm.
refinanced out a couple times as rates continued to go down over that time period. And he's now coming up on a refinance date where I mean, he had tons of cash. He has tons of cash sitting in the bank with his hard money lending business that he did from these refinances from his rentals. But now
Yep.
his refinance rate is not going to be able to pay
Yeah.
the debt that he has. So he is basically forced to sell these assets that he has because I mean, he's not going to be able to refinance it. I
Right.
mean, how like for people like him, how do they combat that just or how do they still utilize your buy and wait strategy?
Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about. Commercial mortgages are tough because they are going to have a 5-year reset. It's just a fact of life. Now, what he could do is just instead of sitting there and taking it, talk to his banker. So what I did early on is I started building relationships with local banks. I stopped using the big box banks because they're
Yeah.
basically trying to fit you in a silo. And if you don't fit, they kick you out. And a lot of times, the person you're speaking with, they don't even know why. They're like, well, we don't know. They just reject you. But reality is, you go to a small local community bank, and they have to have some size because there's a rule called the loans to one ratio. And what that means is the bank can only loan so much to any one entity. And it's based on the bank's capitalization, and our capitalization can fluctuate up and down. So it had happened to me. I was going to this bank. I must have had, $10 million in loans with them. And when they said, we can't do anymore. So why, what's the matter? She said, it's not you, Gary. We love you. But the federal law says we can't give you anymore. We can't loan you anymore because we've hit our loans to one ratio. In many cases, they introduced me to another couple of bankers. It was the nicest thing in the world. I had 5 bankers I was dealing with. I didn't price them against each other. I would just go to them. But here's what I'm back to answer your question is you can negotiate with them on your rate and term. So instead of taking a 5-year renewable, ask them, say, look, I'm willing to pay a fixed rate if I can lock it in for 20 years, or I'm willing to take, 15-year term. I like 20-year terms myself, by the way, Brandon. If you do the math on the amortizations, 20-year term is like the optimum term for borrowed money. I mean, in most scenarios. So in any case, um, you can buy down the rate. There's all kinds of things you can do with these community banks that you just can't do with the big box banks. They
Mhm.
don't understand it. They're like, we don't even, what are you talking about? Is that legal? Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
A lot of times these community banks are actually owned by investors. In fact, there's one called Enterprise Bank in Pennsylvania, started by real estate investors because they were tired of dealing with other, conventional banks. So in any case, another thing your friend could do, depending on there's two other options for him is number one is change his exit strategy. So if he's doing typical long-term rentals, have him take on some midterm rentals. It's easy to do. There's platforms out there you can advertise and bring in the traveling executives and instantly give a boost to his income. But if he doesn't have the type of properties he can do that with, in most cases, he should be able to. He can sell some of his properties, but take some of the properties where he can own or finance. And what you can do is, you don't have to be stuck with 15-year terms, 20-year terms, and 30-year terms. I know investors that have offered owner financing with 50-year terms, right? You have a 50-year term, so it lowers the payment, but you raise the rate to 10%. There's so many things you can do to structure these things. And if I was him, instead of dumping his properties, is sit down to a brainstorming session. We call it a whiteboard day. And you just force yourself to come up with 10 ideas. How can I do this? How can I do that? You kind of go through process elimination. You focus on the top three, right? And you start working the phone. You call your business partners, your investing partners. You call the local banks. Go visit them. This is for everybody here. The best thing you can ever do when it comes to your credit life is don't just call a local banker. Call them up and set an appointment. Go visit them. Bring in your pro forma for your portfolio. Show them your balance sheet and say, here's what I'm is coming down the road with these rate increases. Here's what I'd like to do. Would you mind spending time with me and tell me what you think I should do to accomplish this? I value your opinion. Okay, just like that. Make them a part of your team. Make them part of your solution. They'll find a way. Those community banks, they want your business. They want good. If you got a track record, they believe me, they will roll out the red carpet for you. That's what I would do.
Yeah, a lot of people don't do that. They don't spend the time to develop relationships with their bankers. I mean, that's
Yep.
everything in life is negotiable. I remember the first time I discovered this, and I think it was I was watching somebody negotiate the repairs on one of their
Mhm.
Airbnbs, and I remember thinking, wait a minute, you can negotiate this? Do you mean the price they give you isn't set in stone? And he was throwing in all I give you this work over here. Let's do this price. Let's bundle it together. And you start with one particular service and start adding
Yep.
on others. Well, if you get this, what can you bring it down to? I was like, holy crap, literally everything is
Mhm.
negotiable. It's a life lesson
Yep.
that many don't learn until too late. And a lot of W2 people never hardly learn it to the extent that they can because they're not in business for themselves. I love this. You have started multiple companies. I think you said there was
Yep.
an investment company, rental company,
Mhm.
brokerage company. I think there might have been an appraisal company sprinkled in there. I
Yeah.
know that a lot of business owners struggle with shiny object syndrome, and your business is
Yep.
like a big old tub of water, right? You're pouring this water in, and it's going to have a lot of holes initially, and you're the only guy, and you've only got, you know, two arms and one leg that you can use to plug them up while you're standing on your other leg. So you kind of have to figure out like which holes you want to let just bleed water and which ones you want to plug up. You're focused on plugging up the biggest homes, and each business is its own barrel. And the biggest mistake I see a lot of entrepreneurs make, and I have definitely made myself, so I'm speaking from experience, is they try to like start multiple businesses, like, oh, like I'm going to vertically integrate.
Yeah.
I'm going to have our general contracting business. I'm going to have our, acquisitions business and then our capital raising business. And I'm going to go to the moon. But the problem eventually happens where they're doing an average job of
Mhm.
running all two or three of them. And instead, if they just focused all their time and effort into the one that was their superpower, they could blow that business up, make it super successful, and then make a decision afterwards. So How did you start so many
Yeah,
companies and keep them running smoothly and efficiently all at the same time? I imagine you probably didn't start
yeah.
all of them at once.
No, no, yeah. Well, the good news is, when I was in the corporate world in banking, early on, I was sort of on the management track, and I ended up being a corporate VP, which doesn't really mean anybody. It's just it's not the same as being when you go to a bank branch and you see VP, that's a retail VP. That's like a somebody managing a Taco Bell or something, you know. I mean, probably a little bit more elaborate than that because you're dealing with money. But corporate VP, it was meant up, was doing pretty good. I mean, I had like 5 weeks vacation, the whole 9 yards. But what I learned is how to manage correctly. And you're not only just managing people, but managing processes. I became a master of systems and operations. So first thing I did is in 2002, I got my real estate license, really out of frustration. Most agents that I was dealing with were not trained to work with investors. Their brokers just weren't teaching them. And still today, they still don't. And I've got this massive program. I'm teaching agents all over the world that work with investors. And I built a team around that. And I still get the big brokers, they push back like, no, you just do it this way. This is what they tell their agents. Just do it the Caldwell Banker way, blah, 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 blah. You know, the sad news is they're missing a lot of income because they're not taught how to work with investors. So that's why I got my license. I was never a regular realtor. I hated
Yeah.
open houses and all that crap,
It's a
But
different world. You've got your retail side with consumers. That's one, and then
yeah,
you have the whole off market investment thing. That's what he's talking about right now, just for those
yeah,
who are
yeah. So I did that, and then what happened is this was one of those one of my two lucky breaks. First one was Socrates. Second one was this guy had a radio program, a Saturday morning business radio program, 8 a.m. Called me up when they just said, "Hey, and I heard you've got like 40 something units and you just retired from your corporate job and you're a regular guy from the community. Would you be on my radio program?" And he told me it was. I said, "Are you serious?" I said, "Yeah, man. Where do I sign up?" I thought I'm going to be on the radio. I called my dad. Dad, I'm going to be on the radio. So in any case, he called me up that next Monday. He said, "Man, I sold more programs that day because of you being on my show because people could tell you're just a regular guy. You're not like a spit shine speaking from the stage selling snake oil kind of person. I didn't have anything to sell. I was just giving him my story, my history. So in any case, he said, "Would you come to one of my classes? Just pop in at lunch and just have lunch with the guys." I said, "Sure, man." So I did that. Well, that started me teaching like for a half a day, one weekend out of the month or something. I forget. And everybody was always asking me, "Can you be my realtor?" I'm like, "Nope, I don't do that." I mean, hundreds of times. Finally, my wife says, "Are you stupid? Say yes and see what happens." So I went in the next class, and she was Italian, by the way. She's allowed to call me stupid. But in any case, I went in. I learned my first lesson in marketing. I said, "Look, I know you're going to want me to have you represent you. I really don't do that. But what I'll do is I'll take on two of you out of class as my own clients." Well, every hand went up. 25 hands went up and it hit me. I was like, ooh, I can make a business out of this, man. That's exactly what I did. So I started working with those investors. Then I built a brokerage. Here's the kicker. I'm totally entrepreneur. I never was a conformist. If everybody's going left, I'm going right. So I launched my not the first week of January 2008. Now think about what was going on right then. I mean, we
the
were
best
heading
time to
down.
launch a brokerage.
Oh my gosh. So, but we took off. I mean, because the investor business was so big, there were so many foreclosures. I think we sold over 3,000 foreclosures in the next several years. We did over 5,000 transactions. We grew, we literally grew sixfold during the first 3 years of the recession years. I didn't spend a dime on advertising, marketing. I didn't have to recruit anybody. I had people knocking down the door because we had the business, we had the clients. I already knew the clients. I taught most of them. So in any case, that group and then all those clients started asking me, "Hey, can you manage these properties too? You're a real estate guy. Don't you manage your own properties?" I'm like, "Yeah, and I would never do that for another soul. It's a horrible, horrible business." And again, I mean, this time, I think God woke me up and said, "Hey, don't be stupid. You got an opportunity here." So I took on about 40 units from it was maybe 5 clients altogether, and we built systems. I already had the team. I already had my own, maintenance people and people showing vacancies and clean out people and all that stuff. All I did, Brandon, is I incorporated it into a simple LLC, right? Basically, it looked like an S corp, but it was an LLC. Um, and then I opened it up to the public. We went very quickly to 700 units in about 3 years, and then we were some growing pains. So our systems, we were good to about 100 units, and all of a sudden I realized, whoa, we need new systems here. Now remember my background, right? I had computer science degree. I was in, I worked at NASA. Was my first job. I worked on a space shuttle project, and then I chased Soviet subs for the U.S. Navy as a. I guess I can tell you it's been 40 something years. I had top secret security clearance, and I was a contractor. Um, in any case, then I went to work for the bank, right? And that's when I really learned how to apply my understanding of technology to systems and operations, building operations and processes and procedures. So back to the property management company, we basically evolved into newer technology, and then I started, and right after that, I started the title business because I realized I've got transactions coming out the wazoo, and I understood the title business. In fact, I took the title exam. I'm not an attorney. I never took a law class in my life. This was a part of the law, part
Yeah.
of what they do when they get their. In any case, I passed it the first time. And what's interesting is all the questions were stuff I had already experienced. All these weird oddball things that happen with transactions.
Was this the LSAT?
I can't remember. No, it was I called it a title exam. It's part of the law. So when lawyers go to get
Okay, got it.
um
This is just an
their
exam to
you know,
pass to get your title, like as an attorney. Did
correct.
you have to go to law
Yeah.
school for this?
No, no, I just studied on my own.
Oh,
And
okay, interesting. I
oh,
didn't know
oh,
that.
you'll laugh at this. I went to the first there's an association course, right? Of just like you have an association of realtors and doctors and nurses and all that.
Yeah.
There's an association for title people. I went to the first one, and I'm in this room, and this is crazy, but the guy teaching the class was the guy that was the FBI investigator that busted all the attorneys involved with all the bad mortgage stuff going on during the bad years, right? The fraudulent years. And he named a guy that I knew personally. And that guy that he named that I knew personally, the day he was indicted, I had lunch with him. He had no clue. I had no clue. We're having lunch. I go home at night, sitting at my countertop eating leftovers, and on the news, there he was. I'm not going to tell you his name, but indicted today. It was all because of the fraudulent mortgage business. And I'm like, holy crap! I almost, I
What year was
I didn't know
this?
what this was. That would have been 2000, probably 10, maybe somewhere 9, 10, or 11.
Okay.
And
So right, so a few years after
several
the
lawyers did
collapse.
time. Now, when a lawyer does time, it's not like what you see on TV. They're going to a nice, cozy place in West Virginia playing golf and tennis for about 18 months.
Yeah.
So, so
So how did like you have all these businesses? Like, what was
yep.
it that allowed? Were they all going at the? I mean, eventually, fast forward. Were they all running efficiently at the same
Yeah,
time? And if so,
independent
how did
had
you
different.
make that happen?
Yep, really one at a time. So when I built the brokerage business, I knew enough about the brokerage business because I was in it for already for whatever it was 6 years or something. And all I had to do was apply my systems mindset to systematize things. Being running a business, guys, building and running a business. This is really important for everybody listening. It's a system of systems, just like a house. A house is a system of systems. You got your roofing system, your electrical system, your plumbing system. Think of your business as a system of systems. You've got marketing, advertising, bookkeeping, accounting, customer support, sales. All these things are individual systems that make up the overall house, which is your business. Okay.
Yep.
So all I did was I took what I learned from the first business, the principles, and applied it to the next business. And I got better at it. And then I got better at it again with the title business, and then added an appraisal business. And I realized, well, the laws are changing. This is maybe a great time to step. It turns out not a that was a mistake. I didn't like lose money. But what happened is Congress passed another round of legislation that had to deal with the mortgage business and appraisal business. They wanted to separate the two completely because they knew part of the problem was people were picking out their own appraisers that they knew and say, "Hey, man, give me the best value you can, so I go to the bank and get the most money I can." Well, you really shouldn't be doing that. Um, in any case, I sold that, and but really, what it's back to your question, it was just a matter of applying what I had learned to one business to build these other businesses, and you get better at it. You do, guys.
Right.
I'm telling you. And the home run is when you actually sell the business. That's the craziest thing is entrepreneurs, we're builders. We're not managers. But when
Yeah.
that business grows and you hit a threshold, it's generally time for you to hire someone that we would call an implementer, i.e., a manager, to manage it for you, or you sell it, or you merge it, or you do something to cash out and move on and build the next one.
How do
And
you know when it's
I've
time to
learned
do that? That's what I'm curious.
when
Like,
it
how do you
becomes
know you've
painful.
got your business in a place where you can like move on to start the next business? I think that's what
Yep.
most people struggle with.
Yeah. So what happens is generally in the beginning, unless you have some major catastrophe, your cash flow is going to like take off like shot out of a cannon, and your expenses will lag behind for a while. But eventually, you gotta upgrade your systems, like technology, software systems, things like that. Hire more people, and all of a sudden, your profit margin starts to shrink. To me, that's the time to either sell or merge or take bring it. See, implementer to me is not just a manager. An implementer can understand your vision and implement it and take care of everything. And all you do is you put your profit checks in your bank account. That's the ideal scenario. Unfortunately, trying to find an implementer that not only knows what the heck they're doing and you can trust them and you get along chemically, there's a chemistry there.
Like a
That is,
COO.
yep, it is hard to do. So a lot
Yeah.
of entrepreneurs realize I'm just gonna it's better off just selling. You just sell. So you can sell on a multiple, like you can you can get a portion of the profits for 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. It's called a multiple. Your multiple is going to depend on what industry you're in and how stable your business is and the economic environment. And really, is it basically recession proof? Okay. So, like what I do now, running this I've got this team of agents I've trained all over the country. I'm really kind of set because we really don't we care about the economy, but if the economy goes up, more homeowners are buying homes. We'll do more residential sales. When the economy goes down, the investors kick in and we'll do more investor sales because we can, because we have the platform just for investors. It's separate from the residential platform. So in other words, I can sell my business today. I've seen multiples as high as 10. There's a company called advertising.com. This is going back years ago, probably 20 some odd years now. I know the guy that built it in college. He built it in college and sold it to AOL when AOL was still around for $500 million. He got a multiple of five. He told me later we were on a cruise in down to Lauderdale we were going to the Governor's Club to have lunch. And he said, I wish I knew more. I'd talked to more people. Turns out I could have got a multiple of 10 for that property. He would have been literally a 23-year-old billionaire. Right. So
Huh.
what's ironic is you saw what happened with the tech bubble.
Yeah.
AOL is now a thing that, well, they're still around, but you've seen the story. So, but that guy, you talk about getting out at the right time.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
So in any case, I want everybody here to just think about this. You don't have to conquer the world. Okay. Just buy your freedom. Then take some time off and really ask yourself, do some deep digging, do a vision exercise. We on our team we have everybody do a vision exercise so I know what their vision is, what they want to accomplish. It might not be my vision. It might not even be in alignment, but I'm going to help them achieve it. So you do a vision exercise to find out what you want to do with this newfound freedom. Remember, God just gave you a big brand new blank canvas. He gave you all the tools, all the paintbrushes. He gave you all the paint in the world you could ever imagine, but you're the one that gets to paint a picture. Okay. So think real clearly about what picture you want to paint because every resource you need is in there out there in abundance. I'm telling you, everything you need to build a house is right outside your house, rocks and trees. Everything's there. You don't have to create that stuff. God already gave it to you. Your job is to have the vision and have faith and take action. We call that manifestation. I'm
Yeah.
telling you, I'm living proof. If you can think it, you can dream it. If you can dream it, you can visualize it. If you can visualize it, you can accomplish it. It's really you can manifest almost anything you want as long as it's legal, ethical. And here's a big test here: if it only serves you, it's probably not such a good thing, and it might not work out so well. If it serves many people, you've probably got a really good thing going on, and I would pursue it. You know,
We're coming up on the last couple minutes here. For those listening, tell us about the investor agent group. that you founded and how people can learn more about you and that group.
Yep. So what I was doing, I did a merger with my brokerage business. I didn't want to be in Western Pennsylvania anymore. I love the people, love the sports, but I need sunshine and sand. So so I decided I didn't want to just flat out sell them. I'm gonna merge them. And I started running around teaching all over the US and Canada, teaching agents how to work with investors. And I told agents, from lots of different companies. And through all that 8 years of experience, I got to see this beautiful, amazing country we call America, and Canada too, by the way. I love Canada. I actually lived there for 5 years, but it taught me a lot about our industry, the mindset of consumers, the mindset of investors, and more importantly, the mindset of the agents. And I realized I need to be back closer into production. I love the thrill of the hunt. I love finding the deals, negotiating, being strategic, structuring all these things. Like we talked about earlier, I like I'm you get good at figuring things out. So
Yeah.
in any case, I thought I'm going to build a national team of agents that I've trained to work with investors. I didn't know how it was going to work, but I found the right brokerage that took me in, and this brokerage happens to follow what's called the organization model as opposed to the franchise model. Franchises, Caldwell Banker, Remax, Keller Williams, they all follow the franchise model. That model's been around for decades. It still works. It's not going anywhere. It just now has its place in history. Because in the last 3 to 5 years, as near as we can tell, every new brokerage of any, you know, um, consequence is now being launched with the organization model. They're no longer launching big brokerages using a franchise model because now we realize this is a better way. The old way is too expensive. The overhead's way, way, way too much. The industry changing. You got to be lean and mean, these guys, man, I tell you. So in any case, I went with this company, and I'll give you a hint, it's 3 letters. And the first 3 letters are letters in a lot of really cool words like exceptional, exponential, things like that. That's what the founder intended. He said, I want people to think dramatically differently than the way they're thinking now. Most people
Yeah.
think
EXP.
linearly. There you go, man. Yep. And I'm not here to preach this. I promise you not. I went with them because it's the absolute best model for an entrepreneur to grow. If I was trying to do this at a big box company, I'd have to pay every office center where I operate it. I'd have to pay every region that those offices are in. I know because I looked into it. Here, I don't pay any of those people anything because they don't exist.
Yeah.
I went from 0 to 38 states in 3 years. And because we broke down all those barriers, this industry is changing, guys. I'm telling you, don't fight anymore. I get loyalty. I was one of the most loyal people you ever meet, but I'm also a visionary and I also understand the facts, understand business structure. And I knew if I didn't make this move, my dream would die right there on the doorstep because I was being told, just follow our model. It works very well. They would not listen. And I went all the way to the top. So in any case, I built this team. All I did was I'd already had all my training that I developed over the years. I configured it already to train the investor to then turn it over and work with, I'm sorry, train the agents to turn it over and work with the investors. And that's exactly what we did. And since then, I've written two more books. I wrote one book called The Global Investor Agent, and I didn't write the whole book myself. I wanted to show people that we actually walk and talk the talk. I wrote the first half on how I went from where I was to where I am now. Second half is 8 stories from 8 other people on the team that I've trained and real true life stories. I told him, I said, I want you to tell the good, the bad, and the ugly. I want people to realize, there's work involved here. Guys, if you have a work ethic and you want to expand your business on a much, much broader scale, remember investors aren't just investing in one area. 56% of all investor transactions today are out of state. That means more than half the transactions are in other states. Well, in the old franchise model, you'd have to be licensed in all those states where you operate.
Yeah.
Here on my team, as long as I have an agent in that state who's now reporting to that state's managing broker, because we have a team contract, that gives us a de facto opportunity and right to operate in that state. And that's exactly what we do. So now our investor clients, they don't go anywhere else. They stay with us because they know they're going to get the same good service no matter where they go, whether it's South Carolina, Florida, Texas, you name it. So we built this, and it is actually exceeding expectations, Brandon. I really had no idea how good this was going to be. And now what I'm doing is I'm building people on my team to be leaders of their own models, their own brands. It's just, I could never have done that in the franchise model because that team structure is very localized. You got a rainmaker, they're feeding you all the leads, you're a buyer's agent and all that stuff. That is an old archaic model. It's a job is what it is because people will leave when they get trained. Right here, my split, it's only temporary. I don't even charge a permanent split. It's like it's a referral fee on the first, depending on the area, 6 or 8 or 10 transactions. Then they don't pay that. It's 25%. They don't pay anymore. They pay just 5% to be a member, to be a member, still get coaching and training and leads and all that. We give them
Yeah,
everything they need. Everything goes in their name too, Brandon. Nothing goes in a team name, not even my name.
got
Everything
it.
goes in the agent's name. Investors like that because they know now they've got people that are incentivized to support them on both ends of a transaction and any future transaction going forward. It exceeded. Every day I wake up, I just pinch me. You know,
Yeah,
I
so
got.
it sounds like it's a good fit if you're already in the real estate game and you want
Mhm,
to add uh another income stream. It's an agent business, but it's not retail. It's designed to service investors. You have a group, you can join that group and get access to a whole network of people who are doing this, access to probably a huge investor database as well. And you can
mhm,
start going after it trains you on how to go after investment properties for yourself. But if you can't acquire that investment property for whatever reason, capital or time or whatever,
yep,
you can then monetize it by selling it to
yes.
another investor. Great. This is super cool. And where do they go to learn more?
The easiest thing is just go to globalinvestoragent.com. And by the way, Brandon, we actually do serve traditional clients, so regular owner occupants. And we try to match the market. So if it's 40%, 60%, we match that market. Now, some agents just only want to do the investing thing. So the cool thing is, you're right. If they can't afford to invest right now, get your license. Help other investors. Zig Ziglar said it perfectly. Help enough other people get what they want, you'll get plenty of what you want. So when you help other people invest, remember you're learning. You're learning every single day, and you're earning at the same time in a business that you want to be involved in. It's absolutely, I mean, it makes the most sense of everything I've ever seen. So go to globalinvestoragent.com. You can leave your name and number, and Beverly will actually, she's my implementer. She'll call you she calls it screening. I call it interviewing. And you can get an appointment with me. We don't charge for that. You don't have to pay me a dime. In fact, here's the cool thing: nobody on my team pays a dime for any of our systems, and we have our own lead gen system. We got everything. It comes out of the commission split. That's only temporary. That's probably one of the big reasons why we grew so fast is they're not getting that where they are right now.
Yeah.
We give so much away, it's crazy. But Global Investor Agent, you can come to one of our classes on Monday night. We call Monday Night Live. Talk to the agents on the team. Do it the right way. That's how we do it. We don't recruit anybody. I don't do any outbound calling at all. We let people come check us out, come to class. If they want to talk about it, talk to one of the agents on the team. Talk to me. We'll show you. We'll create a file of leads for you. We do that for people that come to class. We'll say, look, I'll give you a file of leads right now. Tell us where you are, and we'll do it right on the spot. They're blown away by it.
Gary, this has been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. I appreciate you coming on today.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to serve
Yeah.
you guys. Right. It's been nice.
And for those of you listening, if you got value from this episode, show us some love, leave us a review, and share with your friends and family. We'll see you guys next time.